Today we have something important to tell you that not many people are talking about. It's time to pay attention to a big problem: corporate bankruptcies. Imagine this. In 2023, a lot of companies are going bankrupt. It's the biggest increase in bankruptcy filings in over 10 years. It's really shocking, and guess what? We're only halfway through the year. Let us give you some facts. Just in the first 4 months of this year, from January to April, more than 230 American companies went bankrupt. It's a big wake-up call that something is wrong in the business world. Now, why is this such a big concern? Well, these bankruptcies show us that things are changing fast. There's a lot of economic uncertainty, and it's a sign that we need to take action and pay attention to the problems that can affect stability. Let's talk about something important that people aren't talking about much. We need to pay attention to corporate bankruptcies. Even though there are other things grabbing the world's attention, we can't ignore this ticking time bomb. It's a sign that something is really wrong, and we need to do something about it right away. The economy is in real trouble. Things are uncertain, and even big companies are struggling. Get ready for a lot of challenges because it's getting worse. So here's the situation. Borrowing money is getting more expensive, so it's hard for companies to make a profit. The road ahead is dangerous, and a recent report called the CPI from April reminds us how tough things are. So what does Jerome Powell think about it? He's an important person at the Federal Reserve, and he's serious about controlling inflation. He wants to keep it at around 2%. He started working on this in 2019, and he plans to keep going until early 2022. The pandemic made things even harder. Interest rates went really low, and companies borrowed a lot of money. It was like they were getting free money, and they used it to cover all their expenses. But we can't forget the government's part in all of this. When things were really bad during the pandemic, the government stepped in to help businesses. They gave support to prevent a lot of bankruptcies. It was like a lifeline in rough times, stopping a big disaster from happening. So there are some bumpy times ahead. The economy is uncertain. Borrowing money is getting more expensive, and even big companies are in a risky situation. The Federal Reserve is staying strong in trying to control inflation. And let's remember that the government played a crucial role in keeping bankruptcy levels low during these difficult times. In 2022, something big happened. The Federal Reserve, which is like the boss of money in the US, started raising interest rates a lot. And guess what? The result was really bad. This was in the first part of this year. The number of companies going bankrupt more than doubled compared to last year. But here's the really alarming thing. The level of bankruptcies now is the highest it's been since 2010. It's a big crisis that we can't ignore. These companies that are about to collapse are stuck in a really bad situation. They have so much debt that they can't pay it back. So, as a last resort, they file for something called Chapter 11 bankruptcy. But that's not all. Remember when lots of people lost their jobs? Well, now we're seeing lots of companies going bankrupt. It's like a chain reaction, and it's happening all over the world. And this is not just happening in the US. It's a problem that's affecting many countries around the world. Other central banks in different countries are doing the same thing as the US Federal Reserve. They're raising interest rates to fight against inflation. But the problem is, it's making more companies unable to pay their debts. And the number of companies defaulting on their loans has gone up by a shocking 75% in just the first part of 2023 compared to last year. Don't relax just yet, because the problem isn't going away. Experts at Jefferies, a company that studies these things, says that this bad trend will continue. It's like a wake-up call, reminding us that economic stability is really fragile. So let's stay alert as we go through these difficult times. The world is changing. Lots of companies are feeling the effects. We need to keep watching because the number of bankruptcies is still going up. Let's prepare ourselves for what's coming and look for ways to handle this uncertain situation. Together, we can get through it and come out stronger. So many companies are going bankrupt. It's like a roller coaster ride through rising interest rates, high prices for things we buy, and a slow economy that's not good for businesses. It's interesting because not all types of businesses are affected in the same way. Pay attention to food-related and industrial companies because they're having the most trouble. Other types of businesses are also starting to have problems, even ones that seem really stable, like real estate. Let's think about it, everyone. When things get hard, the first things people stop buying are the extra things they don't really need. History has shown us this many times. When people have less money, they save it and don't spend it on luxury items. Now let's connect the dots and figure out what's happening. The interest rates are going up really fast. Prices for things we buy are going up a lot, and the economy is slowing down. It's like a big storm that's causing a lot of problems for companies. Many of them are struggling to stay afloat and are in really bad financial shape. Pay attention to the types of companies that are most at risk. Watch closely as things get worse and companies fight to survive. It's a big challenge, like a race against time. Some companies will be able to survive the storm, but others might not make it. Now let's look at the delicate balance between what people want and what they really need. Let's talk about restaurants and stores that sell things. They're in a tough spot because people are spending less when the economy is bad. And guess what? Even big companies like Bed Bath & Beyond are having trouble. But this is just the start of what's happening. In the next few months, a lot of companies will struggle. Not just the big ones, but also medium-sized ones. It's a big problem because they have a hard time paying back their debts. But that's not all, my smart viewers. The way banks give out loans is changing, and it's causing a lot of talk. The Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, talked about this recently. Banks are going to be more careful when they give out loans. It's an important thing to notice. As things get worse, banks are being more cautious in giving out fewer loans. It's a sign that they're getting ready for the big problems that are coming. But what does this mean for struggling companies? It means it's going to be even harder for them to get the money they need to survive. Banks aren't giving out loans as easily as before, and both businesses and individuals are feeling the pressure. It's not easy to get approved for a loan anymore. Banks are also saving more money to cover the costs if loans go bad. They're being careful and know that more loans might not get paid back. But here's the thing. It's not just the struggling companies that are having trouble. Even healthy businesses are having a hard time. The lack of available loans becomes a big problem that stops them from growing and making progress. Things are getting uncertain. The economy is getting worse, and companies, both big and small, are going to have a hard time surviving. The banks are being more strict with giving out loans, which makes it even tougher for companies. Now we're going to talk about what might happen next in the economy. We're waiting to see what the Federal Reserve, which controls money in the US, will do next. Will they stop raising interest rates in June, or will they keep going? We don't know for sure, but if they want to reach their goal of having 2% inflation, they'll probably raise rates again. When companies are struggling, they try to save money by cutting costs. And what's the easiest way to do that? You guessed it, laying off employees. When companies have fewer people to pay, they have more money left over. But here's the thing. If layoffs don't solve the problem, get ready for a lot of companies filing for something called Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Experts think that the number of companies going bankrupt in the US could go up by as much as 15%. They think it's more likely to be around 8%, but we can't rule out the worst-case scenario just yet. Bank of America, a big bank, thinks there's a good chance it could happen. And there's something we can't ignore. More and more companies are going bankrupt, and that's not a good sign. People owe a lot of money, like a huge $19 trillion. Banks failing recently is another big warning that something bad is coming. And guess what? This is all happening before we've even officially entered a recession. So much for a smooth landing, right? But wait, we want to hear from you. Leave a comment and tell us what you think. Do you still think the economy will have a smooth landing, or are we in for a rough time? The road ahead might be dangerous, and there may be ups and downs of this crazy economy, but we can get through it. With that said, thank you for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more. And if you found this content helpful, give the video a like. See you in the next video. Till then, take care.